there's no doubt that Anthony Albanese has made a pretty good start to his prime ministership, especially on his overseas trips. Now, don't let anyone tell you he's travelling too much. At this time of the year, there's a whole lot of international weddings that prime ministers really do have to attend. When he's been there, Albanese's performed well and largely continued with the tougher national security line of the coalition government. But he is stirring up some trouble for himself, first on energy, and it was notable that Chris Bowen did not repeat today at the Press Club Labor's election promise to cut your power bills by $275 a year by the next election. But he's also stirring up trouble on the issue of this Indigenous voice to the Parliament. Today, Australia's most respected political commentator, Paul Kelly, who you often see on this show, fired a shot across the government's bow, which should get wide coverage because coming from Paul Kelly, it's weighty. In his regular column in The Australian, Kelly described the PM's rush towards a referendum on the voice as, quote, alarming. Labor, he said, hadn't done its homework. The voice, he suggested, is a solution in search of a problem. The Albanese assumption, said Kelly, that there was nothing in the voice to fuss about was, quote, ignorant, complacent and dangerous. This from someone who's not given to hyperbole, I sounded like Julie Gillard there, and who normally strives to give the government of the day a fair go. He went on to contrast the PM's bullet-a-gate approach with the caution of others, such as the relevant minister, Linda Burney, who said that the most important thing was not to set a hard and fast timetable. And also Tom Calma, the former Race Discrimination Commissioner, who prepared a report for the former Morrison government on what the voice might look like. This report should set alarm bells ringing right across the country. And it's one of the reasons the former government went into go-slow mode on all of this madness. Calma proposed a series of regional voices, so multiple voices around Australia that would then report to a national voice of 24 people with 4-year terms to advise both the government and the Parliament. Under Calma's plan, it would advise on everything, quote, of national significance. So a whole lot more than just legislation in the Parliament, and do it all from the viewpoint, again I'm quoting, of social, spiritual and economic well-being of Aboriginal people. When it's as broad as all that, it would be the voice on everything. Every bit the third chamber of the Parliament that even Malcolm Turnbull warned about. It would table its reports, we're told, on issues in the Parliament and use that to pressure the government of the day to adopt its advice. Now, what if it was contrary to what the party had taken to the election and the people had voted for? What if the Indigenous MPs who actually sit in the Parliament rejected the demands of this voice? Sitting underneath the voice, of course, would be a vast new bureaucracy that would gum up government even further and feed the grievance industry of activists even more. That's the last thing Australia needs. But worse, there's something fundamentally wrong in principle about dividing Australians into two different classes of citizen with different degrees of say over what our government does based on their race. Perhaps the worst suggestion of all comes from those who think we should have to pass the voice referendum first and then just worry about the details later. Perhaps leave that to the Parliament to sort out. Now, honestly, it would be insane to give the government or the Parliament a blank cheque on any issue, let alone one as critical as this, who we are as a country. Believe me, any voice referendum is a slow-motion train wreck in the making. If the referendum were to pass, we would be saddled forever with a body that will leave our country more divided and worse governed and split along racial lines, a heartbreaking return to the past if ever there was. And if the referendum were to fail, after a campaign where its opponents were slammed, as they inevitably would be, as racist, well, the cause of reconciliation would be badly damaged, very badly damaged. So why do it at all? Now, I argue we don't. And now when you read someone like Paul Kelly, it seems more and more share the view that we exercise extreme caution here too.